We are back again. Crackbacks, your boy Big Pedro. We got Ricky Leaky and Jason Raghunandan is back in the building. That's everyone's homework. Try to say Raghunandan between now and next week. So we were just talking. They just called me old because I was doing a Soundwave impression, the coolest Decepticon ever. My man was a tape deck, yo, but they can't make him a modern version of that because a transformer that's an iPod is whack. And would you make him you can't even make him a pod anymore. Would you have to make him an iPad? Or do you make him a phone? You can't make him a Samsung. You'll obviously lose the fight and burst into flames at some point. There's no modern update for Soundwave. I don't even have a CD player in my car anymore. It's just the data port and the screen. It's maybe I am old.
It would have to be your iPhone now.
Yeah, but that's whack, man. Now. But that's whack. You can't have and he was a villain too. He wasn't even a what do you call it? Autobot. He was a Decepticon. You can't have a villain that's an iPhone. The iPhone is a lovable, cuddly thing that helps us and guides us along the way. And mine speaks to me with a British accent. You can't fight an iPod. I'm just saying. No, but that's besides the point. Welcome back. Complete tangent there. I have to fight. I am the oldest one on the screen, so I have to fight for the old folks here.
I didn't even know that was the name of the Decepticon. So I learned something new today.
Soundwave. Soundwave was dope too, man. His chest would open and you could take tapes out, and the tapes were one was an eagle and one was a wolf. Yeah. Forget y'all. Forget y'all.
Pretty lame.
All right, but history repeats itself, except with Soundwave. They haven't made a new Soundwave here, but the New Yorkers were doing it to ourselves again.
Yes.
Doing it to ourselves again. We can't be happy with how shit is. The Knicks have made I'm going to say a meteoric rise from last year to this year. Before the season started, if you would put money down in Vegas, for us to be the first pick to get Caleb Cunningham, you would have had the best odds out there for that to happen. We all saw what's happening on the court. Julius Randle's taking a big leap. RJ Barrett's taking a big leap. Thibodeau is a fan. He should be coach of the year this year. Derrick Rose is playing like he's young. Elfrid Payton still sucks. But the Knicks fans are already crying over it or already have the hearts bleeding out for Zion Williamson.
I would love to play for the Knicks. We're
going to do this shit to ourselves again. And it's 4 years away, 5 years away, because he's going to sign that first extension in New Orleans because it's the most financially responsible thing to do. You got to wait all that time. I don't want to do it to myself again. I did it with LeBron. I did it with KD. I don't want to do it to myself with Zion. Am I alone, or do you think Zion's coming, and are you ready to do this all over again?
Okay, so a few things. I do not think that thinking Zion is coming here is the same for a few reasons. I never wanted LeBron to come, so that's number one. I want to make sure all the fans know that. Not once did I want him to come. I thought he would wilt under the New York pressure. But I have some NBA sources that told me that Kevin Durant wasn't coming to the Knicks until James Dolan left, and nobody was coming to the Knicks until James Dolan left. So we have to draft good talent. And I told Joel before the draft, because I followed Duke closely on how much they liked each other, it was a very strong possibility that they're going to play together in the future. When I told Joel that, I didn't think it was going to be in New York. I thought if RJ was any good, he would leave come year 7 and go somewhere else. So I guess the shock is that it could happen in New York, but I don't think them playing together is not a shock at all. And then going to Zion's interview real quick, there's a lot to read into that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him
body
about
language
it.
doesn't lie.
After a loss, might I add, right? When, you're not really supposed to be doing that after a loss. I'm sure his teammates didn't like it. He said, "Oh, I'm glad you asked me about how it felt like to play in Madison Square Garden. I love it here. Oh, this is my second favorite place to play." I mean,
nobody says that about the AAA.
And nobody's talked about the Knicks like that in over a decade. So even if he doesn't come, it's still positive.
Reek, be honest here. Nobody said that about the Knicks. Period. We never get the big free agent. We were supposed to get Reggie Miller in the 90s. It didn't happen. We ended up with Allen Houston, who I love. But Reggie was supposed to be the one. LeBron was supposed to happen. Didn't happen. KD wasn't supposed to happen. We get the leftover guy, the Amari Stoudemire. We get that's who we get. We get the Julius Randle. not the version that we have right now. The 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's who we
Julius Randle. That's who we got. That's why I'm saying I'm not ready to put myself through this yet. Jason, you got a lot of your eyes are saying a lot. Go ahead, man.
I don't know. I think he's still trying to figure out what he's going to do. I mean, I think the New Orleans got like 7 draft picks, first rounders the next 7 years. I mean, does he really want to leave? I mean, they're going to build that team around him. He's going to be the guy on that team. They're going to pay him max money. Could we say the ballpark of $300 million around 4 or 5 years is doable when he's up there? I mean, yeah. I mean, we could see a Duke reunion. That R.J. Barrett connection is there, but I think it's too soon to tell. My honest opinion is him and RJ do some shenanigans and figure something out. But he's got a good spot in New Orleans. They're going to build a team around him. He's got guys around him. He's still on, I don't know what we call it these days, like injury control. So
the load management.
Load management. There you go. So
yeah, I mean, that's a dirty word, load management.
Yeah, especially for like a second-year player.
Yeah, it's funny you say load management. That's why he needs to get out of New Orleans.
Yeah,
he's gonna be 400 pounds if he stays in New Orleans with all the beignets and etouffees and gumbo and all that shit. He needs to get the hell out of New Orleans, get to New York where they got some vegan restaurants and he can eat some shit that's a little healthier for him.
You'll follow RJ's diet. Exactly.
Yeah, RJ shredded, by the way. And I know that I know he's of Jamaican descent, and Jamaican people, they sneeze and get a 6-pack, but he is shredded right now.
Really?
He needs to get Zion. If Zion comes to New York, because his point guard Lonzo is going to be in New York next year, so they might as well all have a nice reunion. But I'm afraid to do it to myself again, because the Knicks continue to break my heart over and over.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm only confident in the fact that, one, he's going to leave New Orleans, because I know Jason's saying they can have a good situation, but everybody wants to leave, and you saw the game yet. Nobody stayed, and you saw the game yesterday. They don't pay attention to Stan Van Gundy. They should have kept Alvin Gentry. So the team's not run very well to make me think they're going to hit on some draft picks to put players around Zion. He's going to take that first extension because, like you said, it's a max extension. It makes financial sense. And in year 7, just like all the superstars do, they're going to try to leverage their body of work and become free agents, get wined and dined. Everybody take him to the nicest places, and the Knicks can be attractive.
He'll be 25, 26 years old at that time. Nobody stays in New Orleans, Jason. Chris Paul left.
That's true.
AD left.
Yeah.
Even Drew Holiday, who's a secondary guy, he's gone out of it too. That's why they have to make those dumb trades and take a bad contract like an Eric Bledsoe, who got hot against the Knicks for a quarter the other day. But Eric Bledsoe, we all know Eric Bledsoe kind of sucks. He's a great athlete. He's a slightly better Dennis Smith Jr. That's what actually not slightly. He's a better Dennis Smith Jr.
It's a way better. He's a way better.
Yeah. If Dennis Smith Jr. was Eric Bledsoe, he'd be very, very happy with himself. But being a point guard in the NBA is a really small fraternity. You got some really shitty guys. It's in my teeth there. And you have the the elite guys, like the one wearing the jersey right there. Is that a Steph or is that a Clay? Whose jersey? Is it a KD?
15, Steph Curry.
Wardell Jr.
You make a complete 360 for you?
There you go. Wardell Stephen Curry. Are we not appreciating him?
I would definitely agree. I mean, the man's the MVP. He's playing out of his mind right now.
Are you calling that? Is that a hot take from you right there? You calling that right now that he's the MVP?
Handedly carrying the Golden State Warriors on his back. The man is breaking records before we see it. Obviously, he got the hand injury last year. This year, he is on it. He's on something else. He's got no other choice. Draymond's not what he used to be. Draymond's not shooting threes. Oubre's inconsistent. Wiggins plays some defense, but some days he gets lost.
Come on, let's be honest. Now, Jason, hopefully you would watch some of the earlier episodes. I continue to call Wiggins Jermaine Wiggins because he hasn't earned the respect for me to call him what his actual first name is quite yet. And Jermaine Wiggins, for anyone who hasn't looked at before, and I'll put the graphic on after, Jermaine Wiggins was a backup tight end for the Minnesota Vikings in the late 90s. Why his name stuck in my head for whatever reason, I have no idea. I never went back and looked. Maybe he scored a touchdown in a game against the Falcons. I have no idea. But Jermaine Wiggins is now what I call the Wiggins that's on the Golden State Warriors, and he has been a major disappointment. He's not the worst first overall pick ever. That still goes the distinction of
Anthony Bennett.
Yeah, exactly. And Anthony Bennett's there. You got Kwame Brown's pretty high up on that list as well. But Anthony Bennett's the absolute worst overall pick of all time. I think I could beat Anthony Bennett in a game of one-on-one. But where I think we're starting to take, or at least for a year or two there, and maybe the injury gave us some time to understand how special Steph is. But I think we did start to take, for granted a little bit that every time the ball leaves his hand, it looks like it's going in. So you just kind of, whatever. The man's a fucking machine.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't 100% last year. What did we traded D'Angelo Russell for Wiggins, which really wasn't much of an upgrade. I mean, I'm sure you guys could see.
Some would say that was a downgrade.
Well, I mean, here I'll say this much: one of the coolest stats that I saw, which I kind of knew about this, but I didn't know it was this much of a difference. So this year, Steph Curry has 6 games with 10 threes or more. No other player in their career has more than 5, which Clay is the next one. And he actually has 21 for his career in total. Hit 72 threes the last 10 games.
Yep.
For perspective, Chris Paul has 73 threes the entire season.
Yeah. He's hit more threes in the last year and a half, the last full year and a half of his career than anybody that played in the 80s hit for their entire career. They just didn't shoot him before. And it's ruined. I mean, I have a 13-year-old kid. It's ruined basketball from trying to teach kids how to play the game correctly.
Yeah.
They all think exactly. When you're looking at Jordan, not everybody can dunk, right? If you can dunk, do your thing, but not everybody can dunk. So you can look at him, you're in awe, whatever, but everybody can shoot a 3. You may not be able to shoot it well. Your form may be shit. You may airball it half the time, all of that, but you can still shoot a 3. And everybody's out there doing the crazy dribbles, yelling out Steph Curry and flinging the ball up in the air. And it drives me fucking insane because you don't know how to shoot. You don't know how to shoot. They don't understand that guy's got up and probably shot 1,000 shots before anybody else got up in the house. Now, granted, again, NBA pedigree. He did grow up, with a millionaire father he went to every basketball camp, and he did have that, the basketball court at the house. He had all of those things. So I'm not taking anything away from him. He's the greatest shooter to ever touch a basketball, but he is ruining basketball for future generations because there's 4 guys in the league that can do what he does. You have Lillard, Steph himself, Clay, and Hield did it more at Oklahoma than he's done it in the NBA. I mean, but Seth ain't taking over a game the way that those other guys, the way the other guys can. Yeah.
And honorable mention, even though I hate his game, but once every 10 games, Trae Young can look like a Steph Curry light.
You could go 3,
throw it down. And
he just doesn't do it consistent enough. But there's some games where you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. For the all team DeBarge, and again, I'm showing my age here. The DeBarges were a musical family from the 80s, very well known for being super light skinned. So. You just mentioned Trae Young there to stay along with that. There, Zach LaVine will give you a Steph Curry-ish type game every once in a while, but he's a streaky guy. Steph
doesn't impact winning either.
Exactly. Well, that's a big point there. But Steph's an every night guy. That's not, hey, he got hot tonight. He's not John Starks. He wouldn't have missed 7 threes against Houston if we had him playing 2 guard or in the backcourt instead of John Starks that day. He's amazingly consistent, and I don't think we're giving him credit for it.
3 blocks a game. Steph's guaranteed to get at least 5, 6, 7, 10 threes a game.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And off the dribble, spot up, it doesn't matter. Kicked out to him, it absolutely doesn't matter. And the other thing is he doesn't get enough credit for being a good point guard. He's an excellent passer. He's just
balls on a string on his dribble.
Oh, absolutely. He's up there with Kyrie as having some of the best handle in the league. Lillard's up
and
there.
below the rim finishes too.
Exactly. Yeah. All those weird kind of layups, the English on the ball, all of that. But he just can't pass the ball this year because Jermaine Wiggins can't shoot. Kelly Oubre is streaky as it gets. His brother-in-law, whatever, something Lee. I don't remember, my brain won't keep his first name. Which one is it?
Damon Lee.
There you go, Damon Lee. I know it's his brother-in-law, but he can't shoot either. Looney can't shoot. So who the hell's he going to pass the ball to? So they're giving him grief for taking all these shots and all that. Who's he going to pass the ball to? Nobody. We're not appreciating Steph. Steph needs more love.
And here I have 2 different takes. One of them is going to be a hot take. So number one, I think when looking at Steph Curry's 3-point percentage, I think you have to add 3 percentage points to the normal person because he's taking more and the defense knows he's going to take it.
And it's so 6 feet behind the line.
So most of these guys taking threes are getting spot up looks, wide open guys. He's taking shots way behind three with all the attention on him from the second he passes half court. So I think that he deserves at least 3 percentage points above his actual shooting percentage. So with that being said, I think if his career ended next year, which it won't, so I'm projecting obviously doing a little more, maybe winning one title, but it doesn't have to be. He's a top 10 player of all time. Just on the narrative that he changed the game.
Can't argue with that. You probably can't
argue
with
that. Three finals, 2 MVPs. May even win scoring champion this year. May win scoring champion.
Yeah, as you mentioned, he can retire tomorrow. He could be in next season then. The legacy's already there.
But you're saying he's not. He could play literally 15 more years.
He's a shooter. He's a shooter.
Exactly. So he can stand in. Manu Ginobili, who couldn't shoot nearly as well as Steph does, at the end of his career, just kind of stand in the corner and space it out. You're going to pay more attention to Steph than you would have to Manu. So he's going to play forever until he decides to not play. His father had gray in his hair by the time before he retired. Steph's probably going to do that as well. I hope he plays for a long time because his mom's good looking and she's in the stands.
Oh yeah.
The wife, not so much. She looks like Hines Ward, but I want Steph to play for as long as he can. And I hope he gets some better teammates in there. The draft pick they got this year, I was expecting a little bit more out of Wiseman. I know he's had some injuries there and he's really raw. He only played a handful of games at Memphis. So they've had a little bit of good luck, your Clay and your Steph with draft picks, a lot of not so good luck with they took on a bad one with Wiggins, and the jury's still out on Wiseman. But the NFL draft is coming up in 8 days. Now, we talked about Wiseman. We brought up your boy, say his name again. What was the one from Cleveland, the worst of all time? Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett. Who's the Anthony Bennett of the first round of the NFL draft of this year? Who are you worried about?
Go ahead, Jesse. You go first.
You're going to hate me. It's Caleb Farley. I mean, the guy was a top 10 pick. Every time I've been looking at mock drafts since January 1st. Every time I look at one, it's lower and lower on the list. Spine injuries, not as simple as a back or neck injury. Excuse me, not as simple as a knee or ankle injury. The guy is a converted wide receiver. So he plays like a wide receiver. I know he led the year in 2019 in pass breakups, but that's 2 years out of football. He opted out for 2020. The guy's got good size, 6'2", 220, runs 4'4", 4'3", maybe. He fits the bill of a wide receiver. He had a torn ACL in college as well. I just have a feeling that these injuries are not going to catch up to him. And I don't really understand where he fits either. I mean, is he his own guy? Does he play press coverage? I'm not really sure. I mean, I think he would fit nicely for the Jets. With Salah's defense, he would almost play that Richard Sherman role. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. But I really feel someone's going to reach on him, and he's not going to pan out at all.
The back worries me. I agree with you on that. The knee, they know how to fix knees now. Antonio Cromartie was years ago. He blew his knee out at Florida State. He had a nice long career and a lot of kids in the NFL. So they can fix knees. The back bothers me. The only person that really came out of college that had a shitty back was Gronk. That didn't really have any issues moving forward. Gronk slipped in the draft. He had spinal stenosis. Is the first time I'd ever heard the word stenosis. But he had, the long. Although Gronk body started to break down a little bit going further as well.
That's why he retired to take some PEDs. He retired to take some PEDs and come back.
Exactly. That's
what Edelman's doing.
WWE and then come back for one more ring, right? Or at least one more. It looks like he's going to play again next year, and that team has a chance to repeat there. Farley's going to end up going the Malcolm Jenkins route, where he's going to come in as a corner and really quickly he's going to get shifted over to free safety, where he's just got to play center field and try to ball hawk off of there. It's less twisting and less torque on your body if his back is, because you're really just backpedaling and surveying things. So if that back is an issue, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I'm not very high on Farley myself either. I also don't like Virginia Tech cornerbacks. Fuck you, D'Angelo Hall. You ruined the Atlanta Falcons when you had Jim Mora Jr. doing donuts in your Ferrari at Flowery Branch during minicamp. So I don't like Virginia Tech cornerbacks. 20 years ago, though, a Virginia Tech quarterback got drafted by Atlanta, Michael Vick. So just today is a day in history. 20 years ago today, Michael Vick got drafted by the Falcons. But go ahead, Enrique. I stole some time from you there. You were talking about Farley, and then you can give your dude.
Well, I obviously 1000% disagree with what you guys are saying about Farley. He was a former wide receiver, so he can play safety, but I mean, he's the stickiest guy on the field. He literally has the turning. I know you're talking about the back, but I'm going to go with modern medicine on that too. I know that you're saying back problems don't go away, but everything's changing in medicine, man. They're saying Joe Burrow is going to play week 1. If Joe Burrow is going to play week 1, I don't know anything anymore about injuries.
And LaMelo's coming back next week.
Yeah, and LaMelo coming back next week. So I don't know. I'm just not with you guys.
You know what it is? They squirted some Regeneron into LaMelo's knee.
And so so here's the one thing I'm going to mention, because it's hard to pick, exactly who's going to be a bust. A lot of it also can end up being on situation. Sometimes it's Isaiah Wilson in Tennessee that we just don't know how bad the character issues are. But what I keep hearing a lot, and I know I'm going to sound like a hater, but that Trevor Lawrence is surefire. You're telling me a guy.
No, he's consistent, if nothing else. He's consistent.
Because there's no such thing as a bust-free prospect. It doesn't exist. Every prospect coming into the NFL has bust potential.
My man is consistent.
A guy that was, one, not very accurate downfield, less accurate than Justin Fields, who people say isn't an accurate quarterback downfield. Like Justin Fields, was always throwing to open guys, waited for guys to get open, and he's 6'6", so has a really long, elongated delivery, and he weighs as much as Zach Wilson. So I don't buy that he's just this perfect, there's no, what if Urban quits after 2 years? There's no home run here. I mean, am I wrong in saying that there is some bust potential? Or is he just bust free? Am I just an idiot?
You're always going to get that bust potential. Yeah. I mean,
but people in the media act like it's impossible.
It's not that there have been a list of first overall picks that have been complete busts. I mean, you can start Tim Couch, Jamarcus Russell. I mean, the jury's still out on Baker Mayfield. Jameis has been a bust, first overall pick. There's a bunch of first overall pick quarterbacks. He's going
to shock the world this year, though. I know you're going to hate that, but he's going to shock the world.
He's on shock the world when he gets arrested for stealing crabs again. He ain't doing nothing down in New Orleans. He's too dumb to run that offense, man. He's and the lights in the.
He got the LASIK, bro. He got the LASIK. And he's in the best shape of his life.
Let's go. That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
The lights in the Superdome are terrible. He's not going to be able to see anything there. Mad picks, yo. He's going to be hitting AJ Terrell in the stomach over and over again. But you've been preaching for weeks about the Trevor Lawrence hate. I don't know why you hate Sunshine so much.
I don't hate it. It's fact.
I agree with you on some points. I don't like a quarterback being too tall. It's just too much to uncoil.
Yeah, the NFL is different
to get out. And that extra half a second, a good safety or a good corner jumps the route on you because you take it so long to uncoil. I get that for you. I think he's borderline on that. And they'll probably work into those mechanics, keep the ball up high and get it out.
And real quick before you go, Joel, Ben Roethlisberger, who's 6'8", was definitely top 5, could have been top 3. And
Roethlisberger's not 6'8".
He's up there. He's close there.
He's like 6. Ben Roethlisberger?
He's close to there. I'm going to look it up right now.
There is no way that Ben Roethlisberger is 6'8". I'm going to tell you how. I think he's 6'6". He's got if he's taller than 6'6", I'll be absolutely shocked. They actually list him at 6'5". There's no way he's 6'8".
Okay, 6'6".
Yeah, there was a quarterback. Yeah, Dan McGuire, who was the brother of Mark McGuire. He was 6'7". I think he was the tallest quarterback ever.
Paxton Lynch was 6'8" too, I think.
And both of them sucked.
I think Blake Bortles was about that size as well.
Yeah, Blake Bortles was tall. But my point is, he's that tall, and he was top 3 in passes batted down the line of scrimmage. Because the tall guys don't focus on the arm angles as much because they think they can get it over everybody. So to think it's not a concern, it is a concern. That's all I'm saying. It's a concern. Jacksonville, one of the worst franchises in the NFL, they're all of a sudden going to become a perennial Super Bowl contender. I don't buy that.
Well, if you get lucky and they actually do hit on him, and he is 80% of what everyone has been preaching he's going to be over the last few years, then yes, they will be a perennial playoff team. Because if you have a semi-decent line and a great quarterback, great quarterbacks that make the line look a little bit better, and yes, they'll be fine moving forward. I'm not on the same page with you on that. I think your guy has more bust potential.
Absolutely.
Than the first one does, because he's even more of an unknown commodity. At least we've seen Trevor Lawrence do stuff on national on the really big stage. I've only seen highlights of Zach Wilson. I didn't sit down once and watch an entire game for him. Granted, he looks great in highlights. The Jets love that he's going to look great on a billboard. He's got the All-American look to him. All that. He checks off all those boxes, but he's got to see if he can actually play football. But go ahead, Jason. Your eyes are talking again.
I don't know what to tell you. I do agree with you, Enrique. I don't know if you can trust Urban Meyer. They are going to do a good job of surrounding himself. Like you mentioned, Joel, if he's 80% of what he says he's going to be, that's still a winning quarterback in the NFL. The mechanics are there. I mean, the history's there. As much as you don't like it, Enrique, the guy looks good on paper. The guy looks good off paper. The guy can make it happen. As I mentioned, I do question his big-time games. What is he, 2-3 in those playoff games? So I do question that. But I don't know. You can't, like I always say, you can't really judge a quarterback until kind of 3 years in the league. He could flop out like Josh Rosen. He could have guns blazing like Herbert. So I have mixed opinions about it.
Herbert, a tall guy too. Herbert's about 6'6".
Yeah, but you get this every single year.
Yeah, and part of the reason you don't know is because when people are defending Trevor Lawrence, and I think it's why we get quarterbacks wrong all the time. And I used to be like this. Trust me. Well, they'll bring up his stats when we all know team has a lot to do with stats as well. Quarterback stats are not individual to the quarterback. If he can get in the shotgun and dump a screen pass to ETN to go for 50 yards, the stats show a 50-yard touchdown. But that's not really what happened. And everybody loves to bring up competition. Is it really more impressive that he's playing an ACC schedule when the best guys are always on his side? So Zach Wilson, but Josh Allen didn't play Power 5 competition, but they didn't have Power 5 wide receivers either.
Yeah, I mean, those guys, you're going straight off potential there. You're looking at actual mechanics, and you get them at the whiteboard, and they draw out stuff for you. Don't blame him for having good teammates, though.
And one last thing, because not to bring up your boy Tua, but everybody acts like, oh, you're in the SEC, you're in the ACC, it's an easy transition to the NFL. No, it's not. The SEC is still not the NFL. Every player, no matter where you're coming from, has an adjustment. So again, I'm just coming up to the fact of this is surefire. It's not. There's no such thing. That's my only point.
All right. Yeah, we'll know soon. Yeah.
As homeboy. So
you got some valid points on there. I still don't think he's going to bust out, but he does some valid points. Now I flip-flop back and forth on my guy here because a lot of news came out on two different guys today. One of them, Justin Fields, came out that he is actually epileptic. He has some sort of manageable form of epilepsy that they said hasn't affected any of his play on the field. Kind of worries me a little bit. You're playing in a game that you're probably going to hit your head a few times. Makes me a little nervous. You're going to be under a lot of lights. We saw Percy Harvin with migraines. He had issues with migraines, and the lights would trigger that a lot. Worries me a little bit with Justin Fields. We got to wait for more of what the doctors say with that. But that's not the one that I'm worried about the most. The one that I'm worried about the most is our Heisman Trophy winner. My man weighed in at 160 pounds. 160 pounds.
It wasn't 166?
It was 166.
It was in the 60s. It was in the 160s. It didn't matter. Even if it was 169, it's not enough. We looked it up. Marvin Harrison at the combine, he weighed in at 181. And Marvin Harrison was tiny. When you looked at it, his arms look super skinny coming out of his shoulder pads. I'm worried about him being able to take on. I'm not worried about routes. I'm not worried about catching the ball. I'm not worried about, practice on. I'm worried about him getting blasted across the middle of the field by a 250, 260-pound safety. That's outweighs you by 100 pounds. It's like a full-grown adult hitting a middle schooler, and that difference in size. I'm worried about his body just not shattering at every joint. I'm just worried about Devontae Smith making it in the NFL longer than a year or two, unless he has that rare ability. I've been brought up Marvin Harrison before. Marvin Harrison never took a big shot on the field. He would slide. He would get out of bounds. Devontae Smith better be doing that, or he's not going to be in the NFL for very long.
So I do agree with you. And normally I that would have been my number one pick too. But there's one thing I was thinking about, and that's kind of the changes in the NFL now, right? That you really, if you do nail a receiver in the middle of the field, you're probably going to get a penalty or something. So players are less discouraged from doing it. And the key for him is if he gets with an offensive coordinator who's going to use him right, because he's not a guy that you can just line up out wide. But if you have that guy constantly going in motion where you take away the ability of somebody to press him, yeah, he can be great because the NFL is made for speed now. And
I
he's
get
got
you
the
on
cat
that.
like quickness that he can just get down.
I get you on that. Now, the hits that you're talking about that give you the 15 yards, usually they're at your knees, they're at the head, they're spearing. A regular
defenseless
tackle.
receiver, though. Defenseless receiver, though.
But he doesn't even necessarily have to be defenseless. You're getting hit by someone that's 100 pounds heavier than you. And
but
then
safeties aren't 260 either, though, Joe. They're like 220.
No, but if he's running a drag route and a linebacker gets a shot at him, or they're running a little bubble screen and he tries to slip back inside and make a play, and Grady Jarrett's in front of him, who's double his weight and falls on top of him. I'm just worried about his body staying in all intact. Did he lift at all? Do we know what kind of strength he has? I mean, we obviously know he's fast. We're not worried about that. And the hands are there, but the durability, you're really, really small. I mean, there's a reason that there's weight classes in combat sports. I mean, you wouldn't let Devontae Smith fight Julio Jones in UFC, but they're on the, granted, I'm talking two wide receivers here, but they're playing the same game. I'm worried about this kid not making it through and I'm not spending a high draft pick on him. And he's way smaller than Ted Ginn was, and Ted Ginn's been nicked up his whole career. So I'm just worried if Cam Cameron was still in Miami, he would definitely be a Dolphin. So you're lucky that Cameron's not in control over the Miami Dolphins right now, because his family, all of Devontae Smith and his family would be heading down to Miami. But I'm not spending anything earlier than a 15.
Yep.
On Devontae Smith. Before, if he had weighed in at 180, if he had weighed in at 190, he's probably the second wide receiver off the board. But you can't take him that early. I'm worried his body's not gonna be able to hold up.
I'm with you. It's definitely a concern.
Patriots is going to be his floor, pretty much.
He needs,
it really depends on scheme fit where he ends up, like you mentioned, Enrique. If he ends up in the right situation, right offensive corner that knows how to use him, he can really succeed. He's a great route runner, great hands. The kid is relentless. I don't know if you heard in his interviews. He's going to do whatever it takes. He's been doubted his whole life, so that drives you on the field. That's the hunger you need in NFL players these days. But besides that, if he goes to Philly, he's going to there die like everybody else. Maybe if a T trains up, maybe like I couldn't even tell you guys. Maybe spread offense like Giants. I don't even trust Daniel Jones. Maybe we could see a little bit of success with a spread out field like that.
He can't be a number one in the NFL. You got to have somebody else.
Yeah, I mean they do have Kenny Golladay, so he could slide in as a.
Yeah, he got 10 as well on the outside, so he might fit nicely in.
He would fit nicely there because they got Slayton too.
I believe
he's 10 pounds lighter than Deshaun Jackson was at the combine.
Yeah, Garrett knows how to use those guys. So
and Deshaun never plays either.
Yeah, exactly. There's another one exactly, and he's 10 pounds lighter than Deshaun Jackson. And Deshaun Jackson went in the first round, I think it was in the 20s. So that would be around the area. Actually, I'm sorry. He went 11. Number 11. No. Hold on. His number actually is 11.
Regardless, he went pretty early.
He got drafted in the second round, 49th pick overall. Now Devontae's not going to slip into the second round, but his size coming up today, being a lot smaller than we all expected, not good for his draft stock. He's definitely going to slide a little bit there, especially in a year where Waddle and Chase, and I'm going to slide Pitts in there just so we're talking receivers, are all size speed combos where he's just the speed hand combo, no size on there at all. So we hope, I'm not calling anything bad on him. I hope that he has a long career. I hope that he's out there scoring a bunch of touchdowns and, he can get up for the wiry dudes and, and throw up some, whatever little tiny biceps he has. I'm just worried about him staying healthy because we've seen athletes in the past come in hot, come in with a great, collegiate resume and get hurt pretty early in their careers and take away stuff, from the fans. So if you could have anyone go back through your fandom when you were a little kid all the way up to now, that you could have go through an entire career with no injuries, who would it be?
My guy's
dad.
Who?
Greg Oden.
Greg Oden?
I'm just kidding. Another Portland Trailblazer. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, Brennan Roy. Need to say much. Great point guard. Just couldn't fix the knee. Well, he came back and played with Minnesota for 5 games.
He had no cartilage left in that knee. He couldn't move it at all.
That was 2012, 2013. Definitely times have changed, as you guys mention all the time. They could fix these. They couldn't fix this.
Yeah, Brandon Roy was amazing. That team, now probably they wouldn't have had Lillard because they wouldn't have been that high up in the draft had Roy stayed healthy. But that team was supposed to be Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Greg Oden. LaMarcus Aldridge, the Portland Trailblazers, stole him from the Chicago Bulls. If you remember a guy named Tyrus Thomas, the hot commodity out of LSU. Exactly. You see, if you can see Jason's eyes right now trying to go, who in the hell is that? That guy sucked. You know what he was? He was a tall Dennis Smith Jr. He could run. He could dunk. He couldn't do not a damn thing else. And Portland drafted him and shipped him off to the Bulls and got LaMarcus Aldridge back. And we wish LaMarcus Aldridge well. Now, he had to end his career because of a heart condition. He had a nice long career, so we got to see LaMarcus play for quite a few years, but we do hope that he has a nice full recovery from whatever heart condition had him. Had to hang his sneakers up there. But that's a great pick. Brandon Roy, from all accounts, too, seemed to be a good dude. All the people, I know a couple people that were out in Portland when he was out there playing, and everyone seemed to absolutely love him. Brandon Roy, nice pick. You're up, Enrique.
Yeah. My guy, I have to go with Ken Griffey Jr. I used to, I played baseball growing up, and I had an outfielder glove until I had to get rid of it because I was told by the coaches I needed an infielder glove. But because I had Ken Griffey Jr.'s glove. Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest on N64 is one of the best baseball games on N64. The sweetest lefty swing. I wanted to be a lefty my entire life because of Ken Griffey Jr. And I mean, he definitely gets to the 700 club if he's healthy his entire career.
He gets to 8. And if he ever decided, if anyone ever got him to Balco for a day or two, he would have gotten to 9.
Probably.
That was my favorite baseball player of all time. Ken Griffey Jr. was a perfect baseball player, except for the injuries. And some of them were freak, like when he broke his wrist jumping into the wall in center field, and he hurt his ribs a bunch of times diving in the outfield, because the Kingdome at that point was literally just a quarter-inch of green carpet on top of concrete. Yeah, back in those days. So if we're playing now, these guys would get cushy field turf out there. That probably would have extended. And still get hurt. Well, baseball. The thing with baseball is it's so much start and stop that they get cold and then they go again, and then they get cold and they go again. That's why hamstrings are popping all the time. Yeah, you should be sitting in the dugout. You should be up, moving around. Keeping your body warm. This way you're not snapping hamstrings, or don't run fast like Mo Vaughn. But I agree with you on Ken Griffey Jr. He would have every record for a power hitter, and countless gold. I mean, he already does have countless gold gloves, but the injuries did take away from Ken Griffey Jr. Used to be, I grew up my entire life on the East Coast. You're up bleary-eyed, staying up to watch Ken Griffey Jr. and Jay Buhner. Maybe you had Randy Johnson on the mound. Those Seattle teams were a lot of fun. Go ahead, Jason.
Every home run derby he would put up a show too. Every home run derby was a show.
Yeah, with the hat turned backwards. When Jason's ready to talk, his eyes get happy.
That was a great time, man. Marlins were winning. It was good times. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Enrique. Growing up, middle school, elementary school, we all looked up to Ken Griffey Jr. Like, if only he could, I don't know, man, find a way to not hurt himself so much. I believe his career would have been a lot longer. As you mentioned, would have set multiple records. 800 club, a little ambiguous. 700, absolutely. But great guy, great athlete. A lot of kids looked up to him. Great choice. I agree.
Seemed to be a good dude too, and underrated shoe. The Ken Griffey Jr. shoe.
Oh, that was nice.
Not a bad shoe. I'm going to stay a little closer to Florida for my guy, and he was a Knick for a short time, but by the time he got to the Knicks, he was already broken down.
I know where you're going.
Penny Hardaway.
Hardaway. Young Penny Hardaway.
And, Penny Hardaway. When he came into the league, I was a teenager at the time. He was in there with Shaq. So it's these two young guys running around on the court. Yes, I'm a Knick fan, but I was down here in Florida, and I did get to see. I watched a lot of those Shaq Penny games. Penny did everything. Sick handle, good jump shot. He could post you up. He could make every pass in the book and saw the game in different ways, and he would funk on you. I loved Penny Hardaway, and the fact that his knees took years away from Penny Hardaway. It took Penny Hardaway years away from us and brought it back. By the time he got to the Knicks, he was a spot up jump shooter, which wasn't even the biggest strength of his skill set. but a young Penny Hardaway. If anyone out there has never sat down, just go to YouTube. You're already on YouTube right now. Go Anthony Hardaway or Penny Hardaway highlights. And
So nasty.
Just get crack open a beer, sit back and enjoy.
Very fun player to watch.
One of the sickest athletes of all time. I was this close to saying Grant Hill, but he went to Duke.
Oh man.
No one can even argue on Penny Hardaway.
No, he's I mean,
that's how sick he was. So on that, and you got some homework now. I want everybody to go watch some Penny Hardaway. I'll put a link in the description for some Penny Hardaway, for some Brandon Roy, and for some Ken Griffey Jr. highlights. It's been Crackbacks. We'll holla at you.